Pakistan's mighty JF-17 Block III and J-10C. The J-10 and J-17 first entered service in 2006 and 2008 respectively, with the former developed for the Chinese People's Liberation Army (PLA) Air Force and the latter developed exclusively for export. With varying specifications, both jets add considerable value to Pakistan's military might. While both the J-10C and the JF-17 are lightweight fighters, the latter could be categorized as a very light fighter comparable to the American F-20 or Swedish Gripen, while the former is comparable in weight to the American F-16 or Japanese F-2. The J-10C, like the F-16, uses a single engine from a heavyweight twin-engine fighter class. The very light fighters by contrast borrow engines from twin-engine medium-weight rather than heavyweight fighters. While the J-10C is comparable in performance to the American F-21, a heavily enhanced F-16 variant, the JF-17 Block III is comparable to the Swedish-American Gripen E. The JF-17, by virtue of it being lighter and using a smaller engine than the J-10C, is not only significantly cheaper to manufacture but is also much cheaper and easier to operate and maintain. The J-10C by contrast is significantly more costly both to operate and to manufacture, although still very inexpensive relative to medium or heavyweight jets like the J-16, but benefits from a much better flight performance. The J-10C can carry a heavier radar, and its powerful WS-10 engine provides it with an unrivaled degree of maneuverability and the world's highest climb rate for a single-engine fighter. The JF-17 Block III, while overall less capable than the J-10C, can still pose a comparable threat in beyond visual range combat due to its similar avionics and its access to PL-15 and PL-10 standoff and short-ranged air-to-air missiles. Integration of the PL-10 helps compensate for the JF-17's less maneuverable airframe, removing the requirement for pointing the fighter at the target before firing. The Pakistani Air Force has notably acquired both the JF-17 Block III and the J-10C in parallel, the former which will account for the vast majority of new acquisitions while the latter will form elite units and potentially eventually replace the country's older F-16 airframes which are close to 40 years old. The aircraft will together revolutionize Pakistan's ability to counter high-performance Indian fighters, potentially ending the disadvantage in the air which the country has faced since the mid-1980s when the Indian Air Force acquired its first MiG-29s followed by its first much more capable Su-30 fighters a decade later. Although lacking the advanced flight performance of the MiG-29 and Su-30, the JF-17 Block III compensates with more advanced avionics, sensors and missiles with its deployment potentially forcing the Indian Air Force to modernize its Su-30s to retain an advantage. Is the J-10C capable of combating the Su-30?